It is Thursday. Raw Mike Richards. Those watching will have a very busy day today. And there is a lot to talk about. Some of it really, really good. And some of it actually very, very sad. We'll get to a lot of it this morning, including, I guess, really our first real Hollywood guest, even though having Eliason was yesterday was fascinating and a great conversation. George Chordov, who just, if you watched last night, and we won't ruin a finale, but if you're a fan of Designated Survivor, it was all about him. So kind of cool that the very next day on a big Hollywood production, one of the stars of the show joins us here in studio, Dave. I like that. That's
yeah,
a
it's
good
pretty
one.
fantastic. And also that there's already news and confirmed news that Designated Survivor has been picked up for next season.
Oh, better.
So, you know what, more to come, and I wonder what kind of developments with the storylines they'll go with. I hope it's more of the presidential stuff rather than the president's family. Sort of like
enough of the family.
I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
but I mean, let's get into some of the, the decision making of the presidency. And I think what's really cool about this show too is considering what the hell's going on in the United States right now, because it is screwed. Every single time you hear a story about what's happening down there, it's like, maybe Designated Survivor is the better option.
Well, in Designated Survivor, the show starts off by the entire White House being blown apart. And I can tell you there's a lot of people who wish that was for real. So we'll get to that. Also, the Blue Jays, even when they lose, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of action. If you're Kevin Pillar, what happens to Kevin? And we'll talk about that today as well, including Bautista and a bat flip, which is just, man, when you're losing to a team that's 6 games under 500.
You're not supposed to do that.
I just don't see that. But I think probably in a lot of news that shocked people today as it came down last night, Chris Cornell, at the age of 52 in Detroit, has passed away. The details become sadder as it may have been self-inflicted. Once again, from Soundgarden, Chris Cornell dead at the age of 52. Such a talent and such an influence at that juncture in time when you look in the 90s and grunge comes out of the Pacific Northwest and you got Pearl Jam, Kurt Cobain, just that whole movement, and yet the sadness and the destruction that also followed them. And people would say, well, the lyrics themselves and the style of music was always very dark. I mean, there was a darkness to it, but at the time, and the music is a reflection very often of what goes on in society and what people were feeling at that time. Well, coming out of the Pacific Northwest, it was pretty obvious what they wanted, which was all the plaid shirts and the long shorts with the Doc Martens and just a real sort of pushback. And that's what came out of that scene. And unfortunately, you now have at least now two of them, so there'll be more details. But once again, at the age of 52, he had just got off the stage in Detroit. It wasn't that long. Could, probably the crowd was still cheering. That's what we understand as I'm sure as you watch this later on today, if that's what you're doing. A lot of people going home and watching the broadcast.
And just like a developing story with any side of news, politics, culture, anything. You peel away the onion layers and you find out what the true story is. But yes, the Hollywood Reporter is, and that's a website, of course, is saying that the Detroit Police Department investigating a possible suicide. So that's the early reports here at 10 o'clock Eastern here on the East Coast. And you know what? We'll know more about it a little bit later on.
And I'm sure you're going to see a lot, certainly on music, television, but anywhere you go, almost any medium, they're going to be reflecting on this today. So that, again, is a sad story. You're watching rawmikerichards.com on the dedicated YouTube channel, or hopefully also downloading the podcast on iTunes. We appreciate that as we slowly get a little bigger and bigger as we move through. And as I said, part of that is some of the great guests that we've had. I said Elias yesterday from his work on, Assassin's Creed, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Now today we've got George Chordoff from Designated Survivor and Goon. We've got a clip from Goon. You might, not that your kids necessarily are gathered around the television watching a show by me. I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that, boy, that's a very, it's a very comfortable family, very open family, Dave. I don't think your girls are watching the show.
No, they're not watching it. And further to your point about online and where to reach us on Twitter as well, for the first time, I'm actually monitoring our live feed on the YouTube channel. So if there's something you want to talk about and you want to type away, I'll be looking at it and we'll talk about it here on the show and we'll respond online as well.
Yeah, I also have a Facebook page, which apparently I've labeled wrong since the moment I did it. Raw Mike Richards should probably be found, if you search for it, under Raw Mike Richards. I mean, this
makes sense.
This would be a guess for most English-speaking people, maybe even the non-English-speaking people. Raw Mike Richards. I mean, they would figure it out. Why not me? I had it under at Free Mike Richards. So if you want to join up on that page, there's lots of stuff. We're going to add to it a bunch of pictures, me and Dave. Hopefully we'll get him when he was Dracula doing the sports, because I think that was one of my favorites.
Good God.
And movie clips. You making out with Gina Gershon.
Okay,
I think everyone.
Okay, maybe
I want to
movie
see
clips.
that.
Yeah, and it was a great part of the movie too.
In home movies with his sister-in-law Vicky, I think, working in the garden or shopping at Sobeys. I have some of those myself. They're kind of from a distance, but I think you get the idea. You'll see who she is. Now, looking at the crazy stuff, oh my God, are you telling me it's going to be Ottawa and Pittsburgh? As last night, Ottawa starts it early. They wipe out the Penguins, who I think on the defensive side, I mean, people say you can't blame your shortcomings in the playoffs on injuries, but what if the injury is to, like, Chris Letang? I think you can start taking a look and saying, that's a pretty big injury, and it's kind of shown a little bit.
Yeah, massive injury. And also Trevor Daley, he was out. Now he's trying to get his legs back in. And the thing with the Pittsburgh Penguins is this: when Ron Hainsey is playing the kind of minutes of a 3-4,
I was going to say,
you're in big trouble.
Yeah, he's a 6, isn't he?
Yeah, at best.
Yes.
At best. Like in a perfect world for the Penguins, this guy's in the press box waiting just in case one of the regulars is injured. That's not the case. He's being relied on for minutes and heavy minutes at different times. It's starting to catch up. We'll talk a little bit more, unless you want me to get into the goaltending right now.
Yeah, why not? Let's get into the goaltending.
Here's the thing. Marc-Andre Fleury has been very, very good so far in the playoffs. But
by the way, while you're doing this,
yes,
as I just interrupted, do you want the shit music? Or do you want inspiring music?
Inspiring music.
Inspiring music.
Let's go with inspiring.
In fact, this actually. Hold on. You know what? For this segment, this intro for once will actually work. Here we go.
NHL Playoffs 2017. Believe or not believe. Yes.
Okay, here's what the Pittsburgh Penguins have to believe, and they have to believe that Marc-Andre Fleury is a very good goaltender. He's played very well so far, but this team needs a restart, and Matt Murray has to start in Game 4. They have to have a different guy back there. This guy's won a Stanley Cup as early as last year. He is the future of the franchise.
He's their guy.
Because guess what? In October, one's going to be here, one's not going to be here. It's Matt Murray. It's his turn to run with this ball. If they give it to Fleury and they lose and decide to go to Murray for an elimination game, that's not the right time to do it. Give Matt Murray the next start in Game 4, and I think the Penguins have a realistic chance of tying this series up, heading back to Pittsburgh, and then you're talking 2 of 3.
Well, again, goaltending is always going to be the conversation this time of year. A tricky spot indeed for Pittsburgh, but you're looking at one guy you said, don't let the hat hit you. I mean, don't let the door hit you, because he's not going to be there. The guy that you see as your future is sitting on the bench. If now is not the time, later's too late. And I agree with you 100%. Also, taking a look at Anaheim-Nashville, you have both goaltenders, and we've been John Gibson fans from the moment he's been in the league. But, you take a look at what you've got at the other end in Pekka Rinne. I see another low-scoring game, but I honestly think it will take a real – man, I don't know if you're talking power plays, you're talking a bad shift, a bad line change, an injury. I don't know what happens, but I think Nashville truly is in control of this series. I didn't think that would be like an obvious thing. And again, the margin's very, very small. But if you're asking me right now, does Nashville win tonight? I think Nashville wins tonight.
Yes, I think so too. I think Nashville wins this series. It might be over earlier than we think. It's just, they're playing a team. The Ducks are playing a team that is equal, if not better, defensively speaking. And that's hard to do, because if you roll 1 through 6 on both sides, we're talking two teams with top 5 defenses. But you know what? The edge is for the Predators right now. I think the edge is also for the Predators in net as far as Pekka Rinne and how well he's actually played. Getting some messages right now from Philadelphia, watching us online. Greetings from Philadelphia.
Nice.
And,
I love Philly. I've
yeah.
never been. You invite me down, I'll come to your house.
And there's also, and good morning from Timmins. Derek in Timmins right now, so good to hear from him. There's also...
Hey, I Timmins, I've been to the Temagami. You know what I'm talking about. I know it's not there anymore, but I know.
And also there's a little side bet saying that I believe it's a guy named Anthrax is donating $5 to the first person outside that moons the studio where we are here on King East. So
$5.
And we've thrown it out that will match the $5 if somebody decides to moon us on
we're
King
throwing
East.
money like DeMar DeRozan. We said, I'll give you $100 if you can guard LeBron James. Which, by the way, I think that offer's still out there. And if someone wants to offer someone else $100, I doubt you're going to find that person. The entire Boston Celtics couldn't do it last night. I don't know if someone for $100 is going to do it. We'll get to that story in moments. But, Dave, you're right. And we're looking at some of the numbers, which we want to do. If you're going to make a wager, we've got to get probably Jim the Bag back in here. But to bet on the Preds for tonight, it's a 174 just on the money line. 174 is decent money. I don't know in any of these playoffs necessarily if you want to, especially in this series, if you want to start looking at, the puck line, it's a 3-2-5, but good luck trying to win by 2. That's the old,
yes.
I'm winning by 1, I'm going to get an empty net.
And I'm going to get an empty net goal because the team that's down is going to pull the goalie and allow that goal, which, you know what, it's not a bad strategy, but it's that 2-goal deficit. I mean, yesterday it really would have worked out well with the Senators because that game was over in the first period.
Yeah. So speaking of the Senators, so on the Friday, so tomorrow night, and we'll get to more numbers as we do tomorrow, but the Sens are paying a 195 to win at home.
Wow.
That's a fat... They're actually favoring the Penguins. I don't know how the odds makers... I don't know how they figure that one out. Pushback, but...
Maybe pushback. Maybe they are anticipating a goaltending change. Maybe they're thinking that, you know what, there's no way the Senators... Like, if you're to tell me at the start of the series, Mike, Sens through 4 games, give me Sens 3-1 series lead. I'm like, get lost.
Yeah. No.
Sens 3-1.
Get out. Stop.
Maybe the other way around. Maybe the Penguins 3-1.
Well, that was...
Senators have been a nice surprise. I can't believe this. And
well,
I hate Ottawa. I don't like anything about Ottawa.
I'm not putting the word nice. I'm saying surprise.
I lived in Ottawa.
Oh, did you really?
It was a dump.
Did you hear me? Ew. Really when?
Yeah, no. There's a big sign in Ottawa that says the place fun forgot.
Yes. Fun stops here.
and then you cross over the border into Ottawa.
But
now, if you go to Gatineau on the other side of the bridge,
fun.
That's where fun returns.
Yeah, that's where they have the French accordions. Welcome. You want some fun?
And the bar's open till 4 a.m.
God, that's all I need. Byward Market's fun though. Ottawa.
It is. It's so if you're talking,
I've done some stuff there. I've done some stuff.
If you're talking a 3 block radius of a city. That's fun. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 blocks of downtown fun. Come see Ottawa, but only for a while. I'd like to thank Henry's Cameras, Canada's Camera Store, for helping us out as one of the sponsors here on RawMikeRichards.com. Also, Avi Studios, and of course, as always, our good friends, Eggplant Pictures, Canada's creative hub. Speaking of basketball, that we're going to get to in just moments, where it was not close. It was relatively lopsided, and you saw a team that was probably pretty fresh, including a very, healthy and fresh-looking LeBron James, which is bad news for everybody. But Kevin Love, I mean, there was some dominance down low. Tristan Thompson down low. It just was never really all that close. And so, I guess, we'll take a look at these. And again, these are brief highlights because you don't need to see a lot. All you need to know was LeBron James healthy and having fun.
Corver not given any room. Love down low.
Ooh.
Celtic fans looking for a foul. Reggie Miller, Chris Webber, David Aldridge, Tristan Ludlow on the sideline.
Continues.
Dirty move by Love, spinning out of the rim. Kept alive though by the Celtics.
So
Nice
there's
pass.
their one basket in this highlight package. But
Smart with another nice play. Smart on the drive.
okay, this
Love,
does not look.
This is listed at 5'9",
where I had that queued
but
up.
I think that's a general.
And it's
listing.
not. And it's not.
So the Cavaliers continue to struggle from downtown.
Here we go.
They continue to control the boards, leading to Love.
Love with 32 points and 12 boards, Dave. Watch this.
And sets it up for
Boom goes the dynamite. Okay, that's enough of that. It's making me sick. Okay, I mean it goes on. I mean we're talking. They start broaching that 20-point lead before the half. It's another NBA playoff game where I look at it and I'm like, okay, how much? Unless I got money on it and I'm really excited that I'm going to win my, minus 10.5 or whatever it ended up being, and that's on the road too. You're starting on the road. So really, Boston has one more game to try to make this competitive, or this thing could be a sweep.
This is a sweep.
Yeah.
The Cavaliers are doing exactly what they did to the Raptors. They just and this is even a better Boston team right now. So I can't see them winning a game. I can't see right now the way the two teams are playing. I can't see either one of them as far as oppositions are concerned. Knocking off the favorites right now. It could be 2 conference sweeps would be embarrassing.
It would be embarrassing, but I'll be honest. Right now, the state of the NBA. So next week, I know I sort of missed. Next week, next Tuesday in studio, Leo Routon's going to join us. Someone's going to talk a little round ball. Going to
Awesome.
be in studio. I mean, he can certainly talk about looking at the league itself,
And we could talk about the finals.
because we are. Because it's Golden State and
That's all
Cleveland.
anybody is ever waiting for.
But if someone said last August, who do you think it's going to be? Well, I got to think Golden State and Cleveland. Because then it's all the rest. And so if we're looking at, a league of balance, this isn't one of them. If you take those 2 elite teams out, and I guess you really do have to consider them to be elite. You look at the talent on the floor. You can't really get mad at a Mark Cuban for saying, yeah, once I realized we had no chance, I put all the young guys on and hope we lose every game. Because if I don't get the kind of draft picks to go to battle with the Golden States of the world, and if you still want to throw San Antonio, if you want to look at some of the, but really what we're talking about, it's one thing to make the playoffs in most sports because you think you got a chance. It means almost nothing to make the playoffs right now in the NBA if you're not a Cleveland. If you're not, I mean, even San Antonio to a degree, but it's Golden State. It's Golden State and Cleveland and everybody else. And so just being good enough to be an 8,
it's not.
it's just not good enough.
It's completely different than what we see in the National Hockey League. Like a lot of people,
completely.
Like a lot of people forget about 7 and 8 seeds actually going to the Cup final.
Like there is no Senator's story in the NBA because that
No.
would never happen. It's not going to happen.
Baseball, Major League Baseball, wild card teams win World Series.
Yes.
NBA, that does not happen.
And see, the thing that I think is interesting about baseball is generally in a lot of sports where you go, okay, the biggest and highest paid roster, so money beats no money. But in baseball, that's not true. In baseball, you can see a team with a lesser paid roster win a World Series. It's happened. And I don't mean just necessarily the Billy Bean Moneyball scenario, but I'm saying every year there are chances for teams to actually win the World Series. But you would think when you have some of these owners that are richer than others and can pay a lot of money, that it isn't more dominant where we see the same team going 3-4 years in a row. Because guess what? As much as you want to peg on Major League Baseball at times because you play 162 games and there's a lot of downtime when you're sitting there in the dog days of summer.
A lot of scratching.
Oh, my God, yeah. Is something wrong with that guy's balls, or is it in his family, or are there a lot of little bugs that we can't see? I mean, leave yourself alone. We have to put one of those cones like a dog on your hands and your head so you won't scratch and bite. But I got to be honest, everyone still, if you can just get in, and quite honestly, if you can make that run, like there are teams who started out poorly. Maybe it's the Texas Rangers, who the Blue Jays are going to see in a bit. Maybe they can make a run. But otherwise,
I give them a better chance than the Blue Jays because all the good the Blue Jays did last week, they've completely crushed with this 3-game set with the Braves, and the Braves are going to the sweep tonight, or going for the sweep tonight, which is embarrassing.
it is very embarrassing.
The Braves are a minor league team with 3 good middle-of-the-order players, and they are dominating the Blue Jays. I mean, when you do the quick numbers, really off the top of my head, 27 runs in 3 games. Is that any good? Holy crap!
Yeah.
This is an embarrassment, and this is why the Jays aren't going to do anything this year because they're missing too many players, and when they go on their rolls, they equal it by diving 3 in a row, 4 in a row the other way. So you climb up and then you scale back down. It's not good enough. That's not what playoff teams do.
The score seems to be the last thing that anybody's talking about. It seems to be all about either Kevin Pillar with what appears to be a homophobic slur, which there was a time and day in almost any sport I can think of that would have been constant. But it also wouldn't be followed by the word homophobic. It was just part of the lexicon in sport. I don't mean professional sport. I'm talking depending on your age group. It was just what guys got called when you just didn't like them. And it really wasn't, I guess for a lot of us, looking back on it, it wasn't necessarily supposed to reflect a dislike of a sexual orientation. It was just a word that you used. In this day and age, it's almost inexcusable to not be aware of that. That's number one. So whether you think it's right or wrong or it's hurtful, not hurtful, if you're aware of what that rule is, then the last word that you want to be blasting out, and I'll just say what it is, you call a guy a faggot, and he quick pitched him, basically was his problem. To think that that's not going to come back, and even as competitive, and he's one of the most competitive guys. In fact, I do really like this guy, and I don't think he hates that community. In fact,
don't know.
It has nothing to do with the community, but it's about the standards that have been set. It's the standards that are expected of ourselves in society and professional sports. But they're going to blow this thing up, and it's conceivable he could get he's going to get fined.
He's going to get fined. I'm going to be interested to see what the Blue Jays actually do as far as are they going to phone up Major League Baseball and say, you know what, we'll handle the suspension part of it to make a statement as a team? Because some teams will do that, and if Major League Baseball will sit there and say, well, okay, how many games are you giving them? They may allow that to happen. I'll be curious because a lot of times a team could make a stand and kind of, instead of sitting there apologizing for everything, make the statement where you tell the rest of Major League Baseball and society, we as an organization don't stand for this.
Yeah,
that's what could very well happen. We'll know more about it a little bit later on today, but
a lot of eyes on the Blue Jays as an organization, and maybe this is the first time for this particular management where they have to deal. I mean, they didn't have to deal with "Tu eres maricón" written on your eyes, which if you entiendo español, you know what I just said. And, it was sort of passed off at the time. He said, well, it's a Latino thing. It's what we call each other. My interior designer or something, what was it? My hairdresser's gay. Yeah, that's probably not going to cover it, but it kind of did. There were a lot of people who felt that the Blue Jays kind of got by on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine putting, on your eyes in English, and because of the translation, you're a fag. You're a fag. On your eyelids. Like, it's probably not going to pass.
No.
So, therefore, you got to think something's going to... Some people think a game or two, and I thought, well, that would be pretty harsh. It's certainly going to send a statement on what can not be said. And, there are many in professional sports where I think the organization is called Everyone Can Play. I want to say that's what it is. Brian Burke is a part of that.
Yes.
His son's a part of that, where they're trying to get rid of that kind of language. What do you feel about it? You can tweet it if you want. At Raw Mike Richards on my Twitter account or at David Bastel. You can also, if you want to contact me, on the Facebook page, which actually is correct if you want to look for it. Raw Mike Richards on Facebook. If you got a comment about that. There's very few they're going to say that it's actually overblown, but there's many going to be very upset about it. But in what I've seen on certain polls from certain areas, it's about 50-50, which I thought is kind of interesting. Maybe not, again, taking into account that he's not exactly a repeat offender. So that was one story, and again, has nothing to do with the score, and yet the Blue Jays lose again. Jose Bautista. you talk about control. We just talked about what is expected of a professional athlete. You are losing yet again, and at this point getting pounded by the Atlanta Braves. So at this point, they're 6 games under 500. It is the 8th inning?
Not a very good team. 8th inning, yes. And you're getting pounded, and you were getting pounded since the first inning because the Jays allowed 6 runs in the first inning before Joe Biagini registered an out.
And so Jose gets up there, and I don't know what he was thinking. Of course, in the background, this is courtesy of ESPN and Major League Baseball, and I think Fox Sports, probably South, is it, when it's Atlanta?
That's right.
This is the voice of Eric Flaherty, just saying that pretty much he's had enough of this act.
Game tough to watch lately. It's just turning into look at me stuff. It's not even about winning anymore. Okay, once I hit a home run in a 5-run game, pimp it, throw the bat around. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating as a pitcher. I didn't see it at the time, but I saw the video. He looked at me, tried to make eye contact. It's just tired. We've seen it from him enough. Surprised he's ready to fight again after last year.
Oh.
But he's throwing some looks around, so that's what it is.
I think it's part of the game. I think it's just emotion. Sometimes it's fitting in the game, sometimes it's not. But just like, people celebrate after defensive plays and big strikeouts, I think it's part of the game, and I think we're all getting used to it.
Okay, but here's the real problem with that. Here's the problem with that. What he's talking about. He is saying that when you celebrate, but it's when you celebrate. What makes you sick when you watch, let's just say, an NFL game, and your team, that particular team's getting cranked. Let's say you're down 35-3.
Yep.
And finally, in the fourth quarter, because that's kind of the equivalent, in the fourth quarter, your guy gets to the quarterback and sacks him, and then he starts doing the moonwalk or the robot or whatever he thinks he's going to do, and you're like,
You're an idiot.
Dude, have you seen the scoreboard? You're
Exactly.
getting lit up. Why would you pick that time to do the Bastille Shake?
Ooh, that's a good name.
Yeah.
But don't do it when you're down by 30.
No.
Don't do it. Up by 30, okay, well. Okay.
But you're right, but that's another great point. Do you do it when it's the other way around? The answer is no.
No, because, I'd say if it's a tight game and you're showing some emotion, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But, man, and I love the quarterbacks that throw the bomb into the end zone with no time left and they lose by, 15, and they're doing the number 1 sign as they go. And you're not number 1. Mm-mm. You never have been number 1.
Yeah.
And
you may want to redo math on that one. And I think, for Jose Bautista, there's another question here today. Are you sick of the act? It's one thing in a big game, and look, I think of the emotion of what happened against Texas. The bat flip didn't bother me. It seemed to fit the moment. He was like Zorro at that point. It was like, da-da, da-da-da-da-da, and away goes the bat. And the crowd goes crazy, and he's running around. It fit the moment, and I really didn't have a problem with it because of the enormity of that specific time.
Bingo.
But that makes you look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and especially like yesterday, Bautista went 3 for 4. So for the first time this season, he went over a 200 batting average. And when you're sitting there at 190s for the first 7 weeks of the season and totally sucking the life out of this organization and really not producing at any level, shut up and hit the home run and sit back down. I mean, honestly, a $190 hitter doing that is just garbage.
You're listening and watching rawmikerichards.com, whether it's on the dedicated YouTube channel or you've gone to the actual site at rawmikerichards.com. You can also get to the archive. So if you've missed something, missed one of the shows, as I said, Elias Tufexis yesterday was particularly interesting, and Marty McSorley too. So I believe, Russell, we have cut some of the interviews. Elias yesterday in its entirety, and I think yesterday, did you not? You actually cut Marty McSorley in its full content. So that now is on the website. So if you want to check that out, go to archives on rawmikerichards.com on anything that you have missed. And don't forget to go to iTunes later today if you need to download the podcast, because I know you're going to want to. Waiting for George Chordoff at some point to come in here. Last night was the big finale of Designated Survivor. And don't ruin it for other people like my friend Tim did. There's Timmer, in your car, where now if you have the feature where a text comes in, you can hit the button and it says, listen, and it starts reading the text. He gives the end of the show away.
What?
There's no spoiler alert. It's like, and I'm hitting for the button. Stop talking. Stop talking, car. I'm like Knight Rider getting mad at the car talking back.
I'm surprised you didn't pull over and shut the car off.
I looked like a crazy person. Not that I normally don't when I drive, but I mean that didn't help. So we'll try not to have spoiler alerts today. And of course, from Designated Survivor, which you said has been picked up. Kiefer Sutherland has been awesome in that.
And Gotham's back for next season too. By the way, and it's moving to Thursday. That's gonna be weird.
Thursday's weird, so they're jamming it in there. Because I think Better Call Saul for me is on a Monday as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a Monday. That's a great show. If you haven't seen that, it's an awesome show.
Now Russell's probably pretty excited about Thursday because Thursday in the fall, Will and Grace is back.
Oh, boy. It's not.
No, it is. It is.
Why would they bring that thing back?
Well, apparently it was a series winner, so they wanted to bring this back.
Oh, come on!
I'm just saying.
What are we going to get Carol O'Connor and dig him up from the grave and bring back All in the Family because it was a winner?
See, I watch Thursday Night Football on Thursday, even if it's Jacksonville versus Indianapolis. And I'll watch that.
And Thursday Night Football is like in the recent history has been just garbage.
Well, they took.
But we bet on it.
They took it another level last year when they had the Bills playing the East York Goliaths. Like I didn't anticipate East York being on Thursday Night Football that they were
and covered. That's the sad news about that. Sorry, Bills fans. Speaking of football, a lot has been made about the beautiful Gisele Bündchen.
AKA Talkie Talk.
Yeah. A little chatty.
A little bit.
Like she's done it before, too.
Oh, yeah. Just look back a couple Super Bowls ago.
I think it was by the elevators.
They got to catch the balls.
Oh,
he can't do it all. It's like,
and that was bang on, too, by the way.
I don't know. Mr. Perfect used to throw the football, run down the field, and catch it himself. So, yes, it is capable.
Can you imagine that getting sort of ragdolled a little bit publicly by the guy's wife? Like, what do you say in the dressing room? You're sitting there. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Oh, pretty good. How about yourself? Your wife's a little chatty, huh?
That's a nice way of putting it, eh?
Like, what are you going to say to Tom Brady, who's going to be one of the most celebrated quarterbacks in the history of all the NFL? And she, one of the most celebrated supermodels of her time. I believe she's, like, sainted in Brazil. Like, how do you broach that?
You don't.
Because I'm not saying nothing. I wouldn't be saying anything bad about Irene.
Nope. And she's not sainted in Brazil.
No.
Maybe in Greece.
In Greece, she could be.
Maybe, yes.
It's funny because I have a statue of Vicky in the backyard.
I am not surprised.
Yeah. Russell's going, what about me? No. I named a boat after you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, what was that called?
The Wiener.
Oh.
No, it's not. Okay. Let's just listen. This is courtesy of, I think, ESPN when Chatty is on CBS. Oh, and she's got lots to say about Tom Brady and apparently a concussion that nobody knew about.
As a wife, I'm a little bit, it's, as you know, it's not the most like, let's say, an aggressive sport, right? Football, like he had a concussion last year. I mean, he has concussions pretty much. I mean, we don't talk about it, but he does have concussions. And I don't really think it's a healthy thing for your body to go through like a, through that kind of aggression. Like,
Gisele!
I mean, that could not be healthy for you.
Shut up!
And I'm planning on having him be healthy and do a lot of fun things when we're like 100, I hope.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
You're not living to 100.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's living to 100.
Like, he must be home losing his mind. What are you doing?
I don't know, because you look at some of his Instagram pictures, and he's at the Derby, he's in Vegas, he's traveling on a private jet to a UFC card. He's
look, he's got a good life, and I will say this:
he does, yeah.
He and deserves it. When you win, how many Super Bowls now? He's got one ring on every finger.
Is it 5? Yeah, I think it's 5.
And guess what? He could have 6.
I think he will have 6 next year. I already have a futures bet that the Patriots go over 11.5 wins.
Yeah, see, that's you. Those you were talking with Jimmy the Bag about that. Yeah, I like that. I think that's good. Yeah.
But I took it a step further because I got 25-1 that the Patriots go perfect. So I got 25-1 on my money that it's 16-0.
Well, because that's when you start. I do the same thing in college football. You start going through the season, and you're like, okay, it's not who they can beat because they can pretty much beat everybody.
Yeah.
Where is the part of the schedule, and again, you're going to talk about strength of schedule a lot when you talk about NCAA football. But who could they lose to? So you go over, like, for instance, I'm going to go over to the SEC and go, all right, Alabama, who do they got? And you're looking and you're trying to figure out, and for the most part, it's just point spread. You're like, okay, do they cover, like, 21.5? Do they cover, like, 45.5? And that's really, but, is that a year where you're getting pushed by an LSU? Is it a year where, you start looking at those things? If you're looking, do you have the schedule?
I have the schedule. There's
okay.
there's two games that concern me.
Well,
And, you want me to review that really quick?
Yeah, and this time, I am going to play the shit music. So let's take a look at the yes, okay, you stop talking, you there. All right, let's take a look at the schedule of the New England Patriots. Who do they lose to, or who could they lose to?
Okay, so the great part is they play the Jets twice, the Bills twice, and the Dolphins twice. So that's 6 wins right there.
6 wins. So the Dolphins, you think, are nothing again?
No, I don't think they're anything there. Now, they play the Falcons, which aren't a bad little team, but it's in Foxborough. I don't like the Falcons' chances.
What a matchup! So the one team that completely in the most masterful way shit the bed on world television, and now they got to go to Foxborough, and they could get it again.
They could, exactly. Now, Denver Broncos at Denver is going to be tricky, but I don't really like what the Denver Broncos have at the quarterback position, so I'm not really scared about it.
Yeah.
But the following week, they're in Mexico City.
Is it Mark Sanchez now in Denver now, though?
No, Mark Sanchez is backing up in
Chicago. That's right, too, because that might have scared me a little bit.
It might have terrified me. Yeah, hope he doesn't come on the field. No. So the next week they're in Mexico City against the Raiders.
Oh, it's in Mexico. It's
in Mexico. So I'm sitting there going, okay. Well, the way the schedule has itself is that they're in Denver, so they probably stay in the West and just head to Mexico because they're not going to travel back across the country and then go back to Mexico. I don't see that happening. That's a little bit of a hiccup. And later in the season, in December, this is the one that bugs me, but I'm willing to take the risk at 25-1. They're in Pittsburgh against the Steelers.
This is in December?
This is in December.
Wow, that's hardcore. And as long as Pittsburgh has most of the players healthy.
And that's what I'm banking on.
Or not in jail. Yeah.
Because usually in December, we start to hear about some of these Steelers injuries, and we're talking about at the quarterback position because I don't think he's played a full season in the last 3. I don't anticipate this happening this year as well. But
for Big Ben takes a lot of shots.
But
usually plays with blood coming from the nose and everything.
But after that, they conclude against the Bills and the Jets, and I think I'm smooth sailing after that.
So, looking at that schedule, here's the beginning from the shit music. Hold on, here's the. There, yowza, yowza, yowza. There's your shit music for this morning. I just don't see more than, even if you thought for some reason that they were going to lose in Mexico City, if you thought they were going to lose in December, it's 2 losses.
Yeah.
And yours was 11.5?
11.5, yeah.
So where are they losing the other
I don't know.
3 games?
I don't know.
I got news for you. I'm going home and I'm putting money on it. I'm going to make that bet.
See, I got that one, and I also got the Raiders over 9.5. I think the Raiders are the second best team in the conference. I think the Raiders win that West Division. I just think they're almost on par as far as firepower. They might even have more firepower than the Patriots do on the offensive side. Defense is suspect. I'm curious about these. If you're playing Raiders this year on any sort of totals bet, you're betting the over because the defense allows a lot and the offense scores a lot. So we're talking 60s and 65s and 70s.
That is, and again, the last couple of years, philosophically, the change that's existed in Oakland, because even when they were losing a lot of games about 5 years ago, they had a defense that was okay, kept them in a lot of games, but they couldn't score.
Yes.
So you saw a lot of those grind-out games where they eventually are going to lose because they didn't have the better talent on offense. And then, again, that philosophical change from going from, a team that stops to a team that, for the most part, slows you down. You just hope they get slowed down enough that Carr's going to put up and again, these will be interesting games to watch. These will be good, engaging games to watch because, again, the thing with the NFL and that league, as we talked about the NBA earlier on, you're starting to see a separation where if we're looking at teams at the top, well, you're starting if we started at New England, and if you consider Oakland to be in that category, if you consider Green Bay to be in that category? If you do you consider Pittsburgh to be in that category? Like now I'm starting to, you're starting to flail a little bit once you get beyond 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, you know how many teams there are in the NFL, so what I'm saying that there's a lot of unbalance and middle ground. So no, can those that become wild card teams go on and win a Super Bowl? I still don't like your chances of that happening.
Yeah.
I still think it's the elite and it's still the rosters that do it.
Okay, if we're looking at possibilities for Super Bowl, is it safe to say in one conference, New England, Pittsburgh, Oakland, maybe those are your three? In the other conference, you'd probably sit there and say Green Bay, Seattle, and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could say that. So are we talking about overall, just like you mentioned, 5 to 6 teams tops? Tops. And we might be actually being really, really gracious on some of our selections.
Well, and I'm saying, when you look at teams like, like a Seattle, so are you worried that they're at the quarterback situation that you're not going to have the starter the whole time? That's why I've heard rumors about would the Seahawks possibly be interested in
Colin Kaepernick.
And you know what? And this is just my feeling anyway. If he goes to a place with an established number one,
Bingo.
and he goes to a place where there's an environment that a Pete Carroll has quite frankly cultivated in the last 7 to 8 years, he'd be fine. And I don't even think he'd be that big of a disgrace. Look, he goes somewhere else where he's assuming that he's going to fight for number one, then it becomes circus-like.
Correct.
And I don't think it's advantageous for anybody.
Nope. Exactly. You put him under Pete Carroll and learn a system and learn under a Russell Wilson and every big veteran player they have around that organization. I think it's a significant difference, and I think it's almost that by mid-season you're watching a Seahawks game and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, he's there, because we shouldn't hear from him at all.
I think he falls in the category where 60 to 65% I think of the league is not interested at all.
Right.
Then you get to that splinter group of those that think they'll take a chance, and then those who may think that he can, and that's an even smaller group. I mean, if you're talking, I don't. He says 3 teams. His advisor says 3 teams. I just don't know if that's true or not. Hopefully, we're going to see George Chertoff, the star or one of them, who is the bad guy in Designated Survivor. And I guess depending on how, when you look at the movie Goon, whether you qualify the Russian brothers as being good or bad guys. And by the way, have you seen Goon yet? I only saw it like a month ago.
I haven't, but I've seen clips of it because the first one, the original one you're talking about.
Yes, the original one.
That was the one shot in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And my brother was in that one. So of course
not surprisingly.
No, he wasn't on the ice.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the ice. But it's you know what, it was.
Yeah, he was fighting. He's the one who picked a fight with Henri Richard.
Hey, you're not so tough.
Yeah, you're not so big. I can take you. So hopefully we'll get him to come by again. It was the big finale last night on Designated Survivor. But if you're talking about real fights, well, it appears, and we talked about this yesterday, actually with Elias yesterday, that Conor McGregor has apparently and officially agreed that he is going to fight. That he is, in fact, that the deal has been signed. Dana White confirming that. So Mayweather awaits the response. Now, in the fight world, this is why you never really know. It's a little WWF, WWE at times, because you're never really quite sure what the other guy has said or responded to. Well, this, courtesy of ESPN, is Floyd Mayweather being what Floyd Mayweather... I mean, both of them in the ego, if they can get him in the same room, will be awesome. But here was an initial response as he kind of rebuffs this notion that it has been done.
Conor McGregor fight. I don't know if it's going to happen. If it do, it do. If it don't, it don't. They ask me about this fight always. They're always asking me about the fight. I'm over here in the UK, in Europe, just period. Doing my tour, my undefeated tour, telling my story, telling the people where I'm coming from, shaking my fans' hands, signing autographs. That's all I'm doing. But if Conor McGregor really wants the fight to happen, stop blowing smoke up everybody. Sign a paper. Sign a paper. You said you a boss. Just sign the paper, and let's make it happen.
Do you want to see it? And would you pay money to see the fight?
Well, I don't really like paying money for anything, Mike. So
This is true.
But I will be seeing it, and I will be watching it.
There's no question.
I want to see the undefeated tour, just like Floyd said there. I want to see what actually happens, because this guy isn't going to give a crap, and I'm talking about Connor McDavid. He may get knocked, but I want to see what this guy does. I know Mayweather's going to be hard to hit, but the press conference may be the best part about this fight. But the buildup will be strong. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see it.
So, in a statement issued to themclife.com, Connor said, "It's an honor to sign this record-breaking deal alongside my partners." Right, because now you got to include everybody. Zuffa LLC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and Paradigm Sports Management. He says the first and most important part of this historic contract has now officially been signed off. So even the slight, right?
Yes.
So he's saying the first and most important part of this historic contract is that I have signed off on this. So he says, congratulations to all parties involved. We now await Al Heyman and his boxer's signature in the coming days. So,
and apparently I said McDavid. I actually mean McGregor.
Yeah, we know it's McGregor.
I think we...
The McDavid fight...
the McDavid fight...
would not last as long.
No, maybe on the undercard, McDavid fights Alex Semin.
Yeah.
Maybe,
or Kessler.
That'd be fantastic. I'd like to see anybody beat up Ryan Kessler.
I'll tell you, it's funny. He goes, "Well, I've done my job. I got under his skin," which, not lying. It's kind of what his whole life has been about.
It's true.
But when we talked to Marty McSorley that day, and which I thought was really interesting, he's like, if you challenge him in the beginning of, so the first 2 minutes of and it's a 7-game series, so depending where it is, if it's game number 1 or 2. Are you gonna take a 2-minute minor?
Take
or
a
whatever?
hard 2-minute minor.
Why not?
Hard one.
Why wouldn't you do that?
It's good strategy. I'm surprised it hasn't happened. We're talking about 2 veteran coaches behind the benches there, and Laviolette and Carlisle. Carlisle's more of the type of guy that would do that, because when Randy used to play for the Jets, and I saw him for years growing up, he was hack and slash, and he was kind of like that crafty defenseman that, early in his career he was more offensive than he was, but later in his career he was so smart where he'd know the cutoffs and how to get to a player faster than, he'd work smarter, not necessarily faster or harder kind of thing. And he's a great coach. I like him. I look forward to one day where Carlisle is the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, because that's going to happen.
You think it's going to happen?
100%. With the relationship they have with ownership, once he leaves the Ducks or the Ducks part ways, Randy's going to be a Winnipeg Jets coach soon. Well, maybe not just next year, but I'm talking with him.
I'm telling you right now. So just in a second here. So George Chordoff, who just walked in, he's probably been a very busy guy considering how evil he's been in Designated Survivor.
That's true. He has been very evil.
So if you haven't, again, once you're watching on...
oh, look, he's pushing those 5 guys in front of him.
Okay, so we're going to show you a little bit of George's work. And then when we come back, get ready for George Chordoff in studio. Okay.
God bless all of you.
Run.
In these United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor to introduce Congressman Peter McLeish, our next Vice President. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Congressman McLeish, if you'll place your hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I, Peter Louis McLeish.
I, Peter Louis McLeish.
Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I have a suspect in my line of sight. I need a team.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
and there it is. Not that George, I think, necessarily has firearms and tries to kill the president. And for God's sakes, it's Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, I leave Kiefer alone. I mean, if you saw Lost Boys, you know he does some pretty good work. Stop shooting at him. And so we're thrilled to have George Chodoff in studio with us here today in the studio, MikeRichards.com.
Thank you for having me, Mike. Dave, nice to see you guys.
Now, people have to realize, too, for George, and we'll get to Goon and he did stunts and Kick-Ass. I loved Kick-Ass, so we're going to get that as well.
I actually started as a stuntman, and Kick-Ass is a great story.
It's great. I mean, we're going to talk about that in a second, but boy, I'll tell you, in my household, we loved Designated Survivor. We liked it from the very beginning, and I'm thinking, if it's me and I can get a role on one of these shows, I want to be the bad guy.
Yeah, right? Even though I didn't really say anything all year until closer to the end of the season, it was fun to just be that guy. Right away, I pictured, the character that Carl Urban plays in the Bourne sequel. I was like, that's the guy. He just looks like that and does what he does, and it was fun. It was fun. It was a good exercise in acting, because acting's usually, hit your mark and say a bunch of stuff, then move to the other mark and say a bunch more. But this was just like all marks, no words, and it's fun.
So there's Paul Smith, our good friend Smitty, because Elias was in yesterday, Tufexis, and now I got to say it. So Paul Smith, agent to the stars.
Agent to the stars.
Just making me. You're not.
It's true. It's true.
Are you? You're not a Montreal Canadian fan, are you?
You know what? I'm a hockey fan, period. And I just hope a Canadian
You
team
gotta like
wins.
a team, George, though, right? I mean,
When
growing
was
up,
young-
no.
Growing up, yes. Growing up, Leafs. All Leafs.
Now, you're a Toronto boy, born and raised.
I was born in Niagara Falls, but I came here when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
So pretty much.
So where was high school for you?
High school for me was Sir Wilfrid Laurier out in Scarborough.
Laurier.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I grew up at Morningside, Lawrence, and Kingston Road. My first job was at the McDonald's. That's still
it's still there. I drove by it today. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And I still make the trip out there from downtown where I live now to get Chicken Joy right next door.
Chicken Joy.
The best.
That's been there since the 50s, I want to say.
The
Okay,
best.
I got to ask you this, too, and I hope the answer is no. Oh, my God, George, I hope you're going to say no. You haven't stayed at the Havanap, have you?
Kingston Road's famous Havanap. There's the Roycroft. I've stayed at the Roycroft. I've stayed at the Super 8, but never the Havanap.
There's like the Alpine or the Avon or something, and you just look and go, what? People are...
I just remember being a kid in the 80s and my mom driving home late at night, and the islands would be speckled with people.
Business people. Yeah, transactions.
Yeah.
Nice way of saying it, right?
Yeah. Well, I try to be as nice as I can.
Well, and here's the thing. So I talked to Smitty, and I said, we're just getting started. It's going to be tougher to get sort of Hollywood people in there. He goes, do you watch Designated Survivor? I'm like,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, I do. He goes, do you want to have, George Boulet plays this guy? I go, oh, he's a bad guy? He goes, yeah. And of course, he also was in Goon. I go, I go, well, how are we going to get him in here? He goes, well, they film. Is it in Downsview? Where do you film this?
It's in Downsview. You'd be amazed how much of what you see on the screen isn't actually there. They do a really good job at turning Toronto into Washington. There was a time where, American shows would come to our town and film, and you could tell, oh, that's the Eaton Center, that's University Avenue, that's this, that's that. But they do such an incredible job on Designated Survivor of completely fooling us. So many people are like, they actually shoot that here? Like, people think it shoots.
Well, I didn't know until I was told. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have known. And you really got to look hard, even though I thought there was one chase scene, sort of a chase scene. And I'm like, is that Kingston Road and Old Kingston Road? I couldn't tell, but you start looking for signs and stuff. I'm like, why
Like
am I
that little
wasting? What kind of loser am I? Why am I even bothering with when all this stuff is going on? And there's Wells running around, and then and Kiefer Sutherland. So let's talk about Kiefer Sutherland, another Canadian. And
Yes.
I just like his work. 24. I mean, I saw every second of that.
Yeah,
but,
I haven't seen all of it, but he's the best. And I didn't even get to meet him on set, to be honest with you, because our scenes were always apart.
Yeah, because you probably weren't really shooting at him.
That's right. Oh yeah, no, I was shooting at a giant white piece of paper. But the word on the street is he's the gold standard. Like, he
That's
is.
great.
He's the gold standard. Like, he shows up ready. He's happy. He's easy. He's driving the show, and he cares about it so much. He's just the consummate professional.
Isn't he one of the producers or executive producers?
He is.
He pulls off the presidential look too. I don't know. He almost looks a little bit smaller, and the glasses kind of give him that look where you sit there and you go, he's more believable than what they actually have in the White House right now.
Right.
So,
yeah. A lot of people, like I say, this show's not about. It's called Designated Survivor, and it spans so many important flashpoint topics in the States, from healthcare to education to arts funding to terrorism to international terrorism. But really, to me, the show is about the perfect president.
Yeah,
he's the perfect president, and the way Kiefer plays him is so amazing because he always has a balance between his head and his heart. And sometimes the head takes over and sometimes the heart takes over, but he always uses both. And when do we ever see leaders do that?
And again, you bring up another point about the qualities that he's able to have, because it's not Jack Bauer.
No, at all.
And so are there times where I want to see, like, a terrorist coming and goes, you come here, goddammit, put your hand in the wire and put your hand in the bathtub. No, Jack, you can't do that. Shut up, talk. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's what I want to see. But you know what? He's not that. And he's just, as Dave said, there's a little bit of a frailty to it. But as you said, the intellectual side, because they refer to him as not a politician in the show, because he was not a voted-in politician. He was someone that tried to fix housing problems and so on. I thought, there's a lot of people who probably watch that show and go, oh, maybe we should blow up. Maybe we should blow up the White House, start all over again, and find Kiefer Sutherland.
You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed how many people, they're like, yeah, you got to blow it up, you got to. And I was like, guys, there's nothing to celebrate here. I mean, I know people are angry out there, but just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. Okay, here's something that's not being kept to themselves. The real Tonelli, as he goes by, he's a member of two armies, the Richards Army and the Kiss Army. This we know.
That's true, yep.
Yes.
Nice.
He says, and this is a question for George, more of a statement. We all used to hang out there at Wimpy's. Wimpy's Diner about 15 years back. A buddy owned it. Pretty sure George worked there for a bit as a cook. He was a stuntman back then. Tell him I said hello and best of luck going forward.
Oh, thank you so much, at Real Tonelli.
Yeah.
Yes, Wimpy's is a real thing. A very dear friend of mine, his father started the franchise.
He started it?
His father started it. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great story.
His name is Chris Sturjovsky, and so his son George, we met through Macedonian circles, I like to call them.
Macedonian, very nice.
I'm half Macedonian, half Bulgarian.
So I can say kokose.
Dobar. Ti kako si?
See, look at that.
Beautiful.
Best friends.
The other stuff I know. I'm going to get in trouble for. My brother-in-law is going to go. Did you call him a Zospin? Do you ever hear that word?
Zospin.
Zospin.
Of course.
Sleepyhead. Yeah, there you go. We're talking Macedonian.
That's right.
Remember, we are friends of Macedonia.
The slušate. That means listen. Yeah. So I started working at Wimpy's, and I was young. I was like 18 or 19. I was booting around in this Mustang GT with my hair slicked back. Total loser.
No. You know what? I did find one of those pictures. Now I didn't put it on there, but I'm like the long hair. I'm going. Oh yeah, no, yeah, that looked good. I like that. I like that look.
Me too.
Yeah,
it's. I like the long hair.
It was good.
Yeah, it works on you. On me.
Thank you. Look how great this guy is, man. So as the Macedonians going, ask him. I go, okay. Did you make a lot of potty?
Did I make a lot of potty? Yeah. You know what? For the time, it was a great job because they did pay me well, and I got to eat, and I got to come in late, and I got to close the place down, and so. Yeah, they paid me well. I can't give out numbers.
No, of course not. That wouldn't be right. Now, the one thing that people are always curious about is the steps it takes to get to where you are, because you're still going, and this is a career that's still moving forward.
Yeah.
So if you go back to stunt work, and again, if you haven't seen Kick-Ass, and that's why I think people don't. When you see
Kick-Ass is a funny story.
That's a funny story.
It's a funny story
for people who haven't seen it. Just explain what it is.
Kick-Ass is a movie about a not so superhero, about an ordinary guy who takes it upon himself to stop crime wherever he can. But I wasn't actually in the movie. I was credited because as a stunt performer, I was hired on that show by a good friend of mine named Brad Allen from the Jackie Chan stunt team. And he asked me to come out and do some fight stuff, which is kind of the stunts that I did. I wasn't like a high fall, fire burn, get hit by a streetcar kind of guy. I did mostly martial arts stuff, wire work.
So do you know martial arts?
I do.
So what did you study? What was your...
I studied Filipino martial arts under a man named Guru Jun de Leon, who is, I would say, the best in North America.
So we know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is because we've seen that. So what is the
Filipino
trait?
martial arts, the traditional name is Arnis or Kali. Some people also call it Eskrima, which basically means bladed weapons. During the times when the Spaniards were colonizing the Philippines, they had outlawed this sword fighting because they were getting hacked to pieces. And so in an effort to maintain their style and their martial art, the Filipinos hit it with sticks.
You know what? I think I saw an example of that. I watch Anthony Bourdain, and he went to the Philippines. He went in there, and I saw, what are these guys doing these moves? They said if they didn't, because they were getting so overrun by the Spanish at the time, they developed this art. So now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, totally. So it's stick fighting. It's the only martial art that starts with weapons and ends with empty hands. Like if you go to a traditional karate school, you're going to learn all your blocks, kicks, punches for years.
Taekwondo is more of the legs and that.
And then they'll give you a sword or a stick or a bow staff or nunchucks or something. But in Filipino martial arts, day one, it's like you have to have 2 sticks and a knife. Knife fighting is a big part of it. And Filipino style has actually pervaded a lot of film, which a lot of people might not be aware of. There's a big coordinator in the States named Jeff Amata, and he spawned, a legion of amazing Filipino martial artists and martial artists in general. And now they have a team called 1187, which has done the 300 films and like the Bourne films, and they do the X-Men films and Logan, and a lot of those guys are Filipino martial artists.
Any Steven Seagal films where Steven Seagal comes and goes, you're not so fucking tough, and then all of a sudden, gung, gung, gung,
I'll show you tough.
But now it's like this.
You're
not so tough. Come back here.
My buddy and I were joking the other day that every new Steven Seagal movie poster is him with yellow shooting glasses and an assault rifle pointing at the ceiling, and that in another 10 years the gun will be pointing at the floor, but it'll still be the same
He
poster.
makes a movie every week.
Right?
Yeah.
I said that to someone. I was like, I loved Van Damme and Steven Seagal growing
Yes,
up. They were my
yes.
favorite.
Yes.
Like, if it wasn't for Van Damme, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. Let's be serious.
Yeah, okay.
I loved them as a kid.
Now, can you do the splits, like when he's in the kitchen, and can you do that?
I can almost do this.
You gotta-
When I was in high school, I used to have a Van Damme cardboard cutout in my room, life size.
Wow.
And I'd do the splits in front of the couch for 5 minutes until my legs were shaking, and then I'd go throw kicks at his face. Yeah. But, I always used to say, like, the movies I remember Seagal and Van Damme for, at that point, there was like 6 or 7 movies, and it was like, wow, these guys are huge. They've probably made 60 movies since then that no one has seen.
Seagal made 60 movies last week.
Yeah.
He did one, I think it was like over, I was saying, like it was like Hungary or Bulgaria or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
his
he
favorite.
was supposed to be fighting Martian vampires or with the sword. And I'm like, okay, Steven, I'm going, we're friends. Enough. Okay, the vampire, you're on Mars, and
Right.
you're wearing the big leather coat. The hair's really black. Nothing doesn't look good.
Right? It looks like someone just took a piece of paper and sprayed it on.
But he doesn't need to do that. Now, getting to the actual mixed martial art, Dave, you did, what was your discipline?
Just Taekwondo. Yeah.
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo's
The
Yeah.
split part is where, it's all legs, it's all flexibility. Really helped out with a lot of other sports, and you probably find that with everything else.
Yeah, totally. Soccer, I think.
There you
I
go.
think certain sports require a lot of agility. Soccer and basketball, I think, are the two sports where if you're a martial artist, especially a Taekwondo guy, you go out onto a soccer field, you'll never get knocked over, tripped, anything. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Change directions quickly.
So, does MMA interest you at all?
The way I was sort of trained in a traditional way. I I had to basically, like the old kung fu movies where you kneel on the steps and it rains and it pours and they put out a bowl of rice and all the people who take some rice get kicked out and it's left down to the last guy who suffers the most. Like, I had to go through an arduous process to get into the school that I went to, because at the time my guru was very selective. He wouldn't just take anyone with money. It wasn't like Black Belt World, you know what I mean? It was quiet. It was underground.
Where basically they sit in the front door and they welcome everybody
That's
in.
it. Sign here. Yeah, buy this, buy that, buy this. Go stand in line. Ours was more. I actually had to go watch a couple of classes, and then I had to bring my mom to the class, and he made me ask my mother in front of him if I was allowed to participate in that class. It was really strict. And so part of getting in was, you're not joining this club unless you're going to do minimum 2 years, 2 to 4 times a week, because I'm not here to waste my time or yours. And so it was always a really serious, really disciplined thing.
How old are you at this point? Well, how old are you?
I'm at this point, I'm 15. Yeah. And I was just like, whoa. Okay, I have to listen. I have to, my father passed away very young. My mom worked lots of jobs constantly, trying to keep a roof over our heads. And so this man was all of a sudden he had me snapped. I listened to him, and thankfully he's a great man and a great martial artist. Sure. So I got lucky that I didn't walk into Black Belt World.
Well, that's a massive influence. What this tells me is that, and it's so difficult when you hear stories of guys who lose their father. We both still have our dads. My dad was and still a great coach. So we're lucky because we had that influence. We don't know what that's like. If that were taken away from me, this is why I talk about sports and coaches and teachers. You hope at some point in your life that you are lucky enough that you meet somebody that helps mold you from a boy into a man. It doesn't happen for everyone. I tell people that's why team sports, I think, sometimes very important. You don't always get lucky with the coaches that you have. But I would also say to you, I know you talked about lucky, but you also at 15 made a really serious decision to have discipline.
Yeah.
And without a dad sometimes. That's not easy to do. It's easy to get away from you. But obviously your mom must have been a huge influence on your life as well.
Totally. She's the biggest influence in my life. She's so strong. The things she went through without a tear, always smiling, always happy, always trying to uplift the situation, always, constantly. And so for her, the way that's, trickled down into my blood is I could walk outside right now, and if I saw the windshield on my car smashed and keyed up, I'd just be like, meh. Someone else somewhere else has got it way worse. And that's one thing my mom always used to, my mom's really funny. She's got good one-liners, and sometimes, you'd see someone with a difficult life crossing the street, and my mom would be like, you think you got problems.
Yeah.
But there's something in the joke.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Of course
there's something in the joke. The way she says it is laugh now, tomorrow that's you, if you're not smart.
And I know a lot of the Macedonian families that I'm close with. A lot of them appreciate so much what they have here, because back in Macedonia, and depending,
it's third world.
You're talking mountains. You're talking goats.
Mountains and goats.
And then depending on the part of whether the other countries recognize, if they recognize Macedonia. The Greek people, sorry, Dave, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. or more the Yugoslavian side. They come over in the 50s. They go to the Danforth. And so you have the family I know is Bozanis, a name changed. Actually, it's Bujanin. Then you have Stavros and Vitov and that whole family. And they all helped each other. They weren't the families you see now. John Jr. did not, and his father, who just passed away a little while ago, they weren't born millionaires. They had to make it themselves. They trusted each other, and there's this framework that they built. But they have that mentality of don't look yourself in the mirror too long, because the guy outside, you're not that far away from him.
Yeah, Steve Stavros is an incredible, a great example, because he's a guy who started selling fruits on the Danforth off of a skid that he found in an alleyway, and when it was time for Steve to leave us, he was the owner of the Raptors and the Leafs and Nob Hill Farms. He built our city.
Yes.
There's another Macedonian named Mike Illich, who Mike Illich is big in hockey. For hockey fans, they would really know who Mike Illich is. He's from the same village as my mom.
There is a picture that I've seen that is a soccer team from the Danforth. And in the 50s,
They must be
in the
great.
50s, you should see the names though in it.
Yeah.
As they were young when they came over, and none of them knew the language. That's the other thing too.
Mm-hmm.
None of them knew the language. A lot of them went to the restaurant and food sort of side of things, but what they've made of themselves. It's a great story, and I'm going to go from that warm story to Goon. It's a tough transition that I'm attempting here. The segue, not as smooth, Dave, as I would have liked. But, of course, even though it's a Macedonian person, more Russian in this one with a brother. And I will tell you, if you haven't seen the movie or you don't appreciate the way that certain people in a hockey locker room would talk about someone's mom, this clip is not for you.
Fucking helmet! Starting goalie Marco Belchi. Call him Belchi. He's from Regina.
Regina?
He drinks a lot of hand sanitizer. What's so fucking funny, giggly bits?
We have your mama right here.
There she is.
Look at this beautiful smile. There she is. Say hello.
Oh, it's called fuck your mom.
Now, does that guy look like a killer?
It's like a Belchi.
Fucking Chernobyl motherfucker.
Yo, yeah. There's something that's not for Mother's Day, and by the way, Happy Mother's Day the other day. That's not the. But you
Yes.
know what? That must have been a lot of fun. Can
Yeah.
you skate? Like, are you?
Yeah, I could skate. I could skate. I like to consider myself an athlete, but I'm nowhere near a pro hockey player. So I can, I can get on the ice and skate and shoot and all that stuff, enough to make a movie. They trained us also, especially a lot on the second one. But that scene, the helmet scene, is really funny because when I got Goon, at that point in my acting career, I was like trying to be really professional. I said, I don't care if it's a student film or Steven Spielberg. I'm not interested who's writing, producing, directing. I just want to do my best. And I'm going to treat every job the same. So I read my scenes. I did this audition. I show up in Winnipeg where we shot it.
Yep, God's
And-
country.
Yeah. Portage La Prairie
There
is
you
the
go,
town.
there you go.
Hey, his brother. To tell the story, you got to tell the story.
I'll tell him later.
No, got to tell him now. Because people watching know.
Okay, so my brother was in that movie as well, but he was in the penalty box at the time. I think
Okay.
he was the timekeeper in that movie. I think you guys shot in Portage and I think Selkirk, Manitoba too, right? Was it Selkirk?
I'm not sure. There might
Yeah.
have been scenes that I
Yeah.
wasn't in that they shot.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, but we're not talking about the Gilmore stuff, right?
No.
But this scene, I walked in with this sort of not knowing who was there or what was going on. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Jay Baruchel. Oh my God, that's Sean William Scott. Oh my God, this, like, whoa, hold on a second. And that was the first scene we shot. That was like day one.
That was the first shoot?
Day
Oh, my
one.
God, that's hilarious.
And I was just standing there with Sean, and it was great. It was a bit of a baptism by fire thing. A lot of improv in that movie, which was great. I really like that. Sometimes I don't like being restricted.
Okay, so talk about that, because a lot of people, we don't understand what you have to do. We assume there's a lot of memorization. We assume there's pages of lines. You're trying to do it. And then someone like yourself comes in and said, yeah, but the director let us improv a little bit. How do they set that up? They say, here's what's going on here. Do you have to hit some lines and then go off? How does that work?
Yeah, sometimes it could be like, say this and then go wild a bit. And sometimes it'll be stick to the script, do it once, twice. Okay, we got that. Now do whatever you want. Give me something different. Have fun.
So the helmet scene, improv or some stuff?
Helmet scene, we, again, say these two lines and then go off
Take
a
off
bit.
with it.
Take off with it.
So you got to come up,
Yeah.
especially in a scene like that, you're like, as a Russian person, you might be saying something like this. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
a fun thing to do. I
Yeah,
think.
no, it was great, and the audition sort of went that way too, where it was done. My callback was done over Skype, and I didn't have a physical webcam, so I had to empty my room, take my iMac, put it on like 4 feet of books, so that I could Skype this audition with the whole room around me, and yeah, that's all it was. He didn't even want to hear the lines. He was just like, insult my mother. Go for it. Let me hear what you got.
Now, did you have to borrow a little of the accent? Because if someone who's part Bulgarian or whatever, I mean, can you read Cyrillic? Can you read it?
It's tough. I wouldn't say I can.
But it's a little bit in that culture. So to imitate that accent is not that far away for you to do that.
No, the accents are not far away, but they're not exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah, so it makes it easy. And because I speak Bulgarian and Macedonian. And I went to public school, which is the best thing in the world because I grew up with kids from everywhere, and I got to try food from everywhere, and I got to hear accents from everywhere and sleep at kids' houses that were from yeah, you know, it was amazing. So accents for me are something I appreciate. So I really, when I hear an accent, I'm like, excuse me, Mike. You know, I'll be listening. I got to hear it. Yeah.
Good for you. What a very nice, like, look, you know, it's funny. You meet people and you see what they do for a living. We've not met beforehand. I'm thinking, I hope we hang out. I hope you come to I hope you come to parties with me. I mean, it's just you get to meet these people. Like, yeah, but the other thing is, of those people that you met on movies, everyone doesn't become friends. We often think that
it's rare.
You come across and they were in all these scenes. Sometimes, as you said, you don't even saw Kiefer Sutherland because you weren't in the same scene at the same time.
Yeah.
Who did you get to meet on that? Did Liev Schreiber, did you get to meet him?
On Goon, yeah. I got to spend a lot of time with Liev, especially we were in Winnipeg, and so there's not a hell of a lot going on.
Uh-oh, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
That's
and so after work, we were doing night shoots on that movie. So, you know, after work, we would all have beer and bacon and eggs for breakfast, as it were, because it was 8 a.m. And then we'd sleep. And on the weekends, we were already on this night shift thing. So Liev and I had some very interesting times together. Yeah.
He looks awesome. He looks like, I mean, Ray Donovan, we talk about. I mean, I love Ray Donovan. That's an awesome show. And,
yeah, it's great.
And so, Jay, do you get to meet Jay at all?
Jay's my best friend. Like,
he's amazing.
Yeah, we met on the first Goon, and it was almost like we were finishing each other's sentences. Like, we just got along so well. We have so much in common from our relationships with our mothers and our upbringings and the types of neighborhoods we grew up in. And he's also, embraces everything around him. And so we have so much in common. We hit it off instantly. Yeah, we talk daily.
Now, what's next for you? I mean, you've everything that you've done so far that we have shown. There's got to be casting directors, people who are putting projects together, going, this guy we can work with.
Yeah, that's what I hope the work speaks for itself.
It better.
Which is why I don't have any social media and stuff. A lot of people think it's like really strange that I don't have social media being an actor, but for me, I just want it to be like it was when I grew up. You know, the work speaks for itself, and I'm not reaching out constantly every time I'm sitting on the toilet begging people to watch Designated Survivor. I'm thrilled that they love it without me having to do that, and they get to enjoy the show, and people see me in Starbucks, and they're like, you just see their head kind of turning sideways. They don't know what to say.
So have you guys shot season 2 already? Because I know you guys are renewed for the fall. So is that already underway, or is that finished already?
Season 2 is going to start very, very soon. They're taking a hiatus and then going to go back at it. The show was crazy. I've never worked on a busier show.
Really?
Yeah, it was like I've worked on big shows like Chronicles of Riddick, $180 million shows and stuff. But this show was just busy. 3 units, 2 units going constantly around the clock.
So that's
many
expensive.
moving parts.
So it's expensive to do this stuff.
Yeah. And it's an ABC show, and there was just so much going on that we're only 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the airing schedule.
Oh wow.
So the episode that aired last night was only written like 5 weeks ago and shot 3 weeks ago.
So the writers just must be losing their minds trying to make sure that they keep ahead.
It's a big team, and it's easy to sort of like, we map out a whole season and then go for it. But part of the great thing about this show is that they're trying to keep it relevant at the same time. So that involves a bit of in the moment writing. You can't sort of go too far ahead, because if what you wrote last year for episode 10 doesn't work in the moment anymore, and that's what's great about the show. It feels like it's now. It feels like he's the president now.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure like 50 million people watch this show across the world.
Well, it's got to be huge.
So I'm sure he's more of a president to them than
the president.
Yeah.
The current.
See, he still can't even say. You might be one of the most grounded individuals. I mean, it's just rare that if it's me, I mean, there's a lot of humility. There's a lot of balance to your life. I would be disgusting. I think I'd be like Rob Lowe, and the girls would be coming over, and the cameras would be already set up. Like, what's that? Don't worry about it. By the way, Russell, make sure you get everything. And don't lose the light. You know, and you have none of these qualities. You're like the most awesome guy. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Well, I was always taught to be humble. You know, one thing my father told my brother, which my brother told me, was the humble head never gets cut by the sword. And again, my martial arts instructor, Guru Jun, humble was everything. He'd never wanted us to fight. He wanted us to be artists, perfect, you know, picture perfect all the time. And we always trained in regular clothing, and, you know, I never wore stuff with logos on it and patterns, and it just became a thing where you just always that's a cute little logo.
I don't profess to do that stuff
Yeah.
either. I think it's way
it's not to say I haven't been caught in a t-shirt with something on it, but I try to be non-invasive to the rest of the world as much as I possibly can. That way I can watch and I can learn and I can absorb. If I'm busy talking and shining, then I'm not really absorbing what's around me. That's my
Are you listening, Russell? Yeah. After you shirtless in the patio bar last night, I was disgusted by that whole thing. It really was too much. George,
sorry I missed it.
Thank you so much for coming. I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to meet you, and
you too.
And people are like, what was all the Macedonian talk? I didn't know. And that's the thing about the Macedonians. You see the last name, and because of where they've come from, a lot of times it's changed. Like, it may not, like, do you know what it was before it was?
It was always Chortov.
It was.
It was.
Okay, that's
Now,
interesting.
my mom's last name was Anevska. That's the feminine affectation. It would be Anevsky.
Right.
So that was my mother's maiden name.
Because there's skis, and then of course, if it was Greekified, I think I could say that. You know, then you like I would think Stamkos was maybe not that before. I don't know. I'm just saying, but a lot of times they've changed those names.
Stamkos could have been changed. I don't know. I don't know Steve Stamkos.
Yeah, Steven, if you come on the show. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
I'm a fan, Steven.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of you. And a lot of my friends, you can ask them, I'm always like, that guy's Macedonian, best in the league. You're lucky he broke his leg. He's the best in the league. His also is a name to me that sort of rings close to the border. There's a lot of the border communities that are mixed Macedonian and Greek, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
His name to me sounds like one of those names.
See, I know Greek stuff too. You know.
Oh,
because
you know,
he has a very beautiful sister-in-law. Just so you know.
Yeah. By the way, my wife was texting with us saying that Vicky would be very interested in George.
Yeah, I don't want to hear this talk.
Holy moly!
What? Right in front of me?
my wife's twin sister.
Well, let's all go out for dinner sometime.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not that big on you now.
Jesus, I go up and down so fast on the scale of Richards.
That really flipped it. The scale.
The Richards scale.
The scale of Richards.
Best friends. Yep.
Is that going to become a thing now on the show?
I think it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you a scale, and we'll put it in the thing here. Justice in your window.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
George Chortov, unbelievable to have you in studio today. Congratulations on all the successes, and we certainly hope to see more of them.
Yeah.
And hope to see more of you. And again, congratulations on a tremendous show. Designated Survivor, by the way. Don't ruin it for people. The finale was last night, so if you haven't seen it, don't tell people.
That's right. Keep it quiet.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Brat. Thanks,
Brat.
Brat.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make sure you download us on iTunes today. Worth your while, or watch us on the dedicated YouTube channel. Have a great day. And myself, Dave Bastel, and the amazing Russell. See you tomorrow.